Welcome back to the Proverbs series, guys. For today's video specifically, I want to go to chapter 27, verse 1, which reads, "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring." Now, the reason I wanted to take a look at this verse in particular is because, let's face it, right? We all make plans constantly. We schedule meetings 2 weeks in advance, book flights months in advance, set 5 year career goals, and even make financial projections about decades we have not even seen. And again, I don't think any of that is inherently wrong because we have established throughout the series that diligent planning is affirmed throughout the Proverbs, but the issue, I believe, is not the planning. It's the particular posture that sometimes accompanies it, the posture of confident presumption about what tomorrow holds that treats the future as something we already own rather than something we are moving toward. And I think boasting about tomorrow is that posture given a voice. It is the declaration that what we have already planned is effectively already accomplished, that the future is sufficiently under our control that we can speak about it with the same certainty we speak about the present. And Solomon addresses that posture here with one of the most quietly devastating observations in the entire book. You do not know what a day may bring. Not you cannot fully predict the future, which is also true, but not the future is somewhat uncertain, which is still true, but it's that you do not know what a single day may bring. And so the uncertainty is not a matter of degree, but it is fundamental. And boasting about tomorrow, I believe, in the face of that fundamental uncertainty is not confidence, but it is a specific kind of foolishness that wisdom identifies and calls by its name. All right, so let's get into the verse here. Do not boast about tomorrow, right? For context, the verb boast here carries the sense of praising, glorying in, and making confident declarations about something as though it is already secured. So it's not merely the act of making plans or expressing hopes, but it is the specific act of treating what has not yet happened as if it is already in hand, speaking about the future with the kind of certainty that only the present actually warrants. And I think this is just a subtle but important distinction, right? There is a meaningful difference between saying, I plan to finish this project tomorrow, and saying, I will have finished this project tomorrow and it will be excellent, with the kind of certainty that leaves no room for the unexpected. Like the first acknowledges the intention, right? But the second treats tomorrow as it's already possessed. And so Proverbs 27:1 is just addressing the second posture. The word tomorrow in the Hebrew encompasses not just the literal next day, but the future more broadly. It's the territory that lies ahead of us on the timeline, right? That everything has not yet arrived. And Solomon is saying that the entire domain of what has not yet happened is not available to us as a ground for confident boasting, precisely because it has not yet happened and its contents are not yet known. But James 4:13-16 is the New Testament passage that develops this verse most completely. And it's worth reading in full because it moves from the diagnosis to the prescription in a way that Proverbs 27:1 leaves implicit. It says, "Come now, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go into such and such a town and spend a year there and trade and make a profit, yet you do not know what tomorrow will bring. What is your life? For you are a mist that appears for a little time and then vanishes. Instead, you ought to say, if the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. As it is, you boast in your arrogance. All such boasting is evil." And so James uses this exact same structure as Proverbs 27:1, right? The confident declaration about tomorrow, followed by the reminder that tomorrow is not ours to declare about. And then he provides the corrective posture by saying, if the Lord wills, right? And so the acknowledgement of divine sovereignty over the future is the antidote to the boasting that treats the future as already secured. He also names James, right? What the boasting actually is underneath its confident surface: arrogance, right? The person who boasts about tomorrow is not just being optimistic or enthusiastic about their plans, but they are operating with an implicit claim to a kind of knowledge and control over the future that they do not possess. And I think that implicit claim is the arrogance that James identifies, and it is the same overreach that Proverbs 27:1 is targeting. And I think it's also worth noting that the command here is specifically against boasting and not planning or hope, right? Let's make it clear Solomon is not counseling paralysis or pessimism. Proverbs elsewhere affirms the value of looking ahead, preparing carefully, and working toward future goals. But what it is forbidding is the transformation of plans and hopes into confident declarations that treat the future as though it is already owned. And I think the distinction between planning and humbly and boasting presumptuously is the distinction this verse is drawing. For you do not know what a day may bring. Right? That's the next part of the verse. I think the reason behind the command is as simple and as comprehensive as any reason in the book of Proverbs. You don't know, right? It's not that you cannot fully predict, not that your knowledge is limited in certain respects, but while those things are true, it's that you do not know what a single day may bring. And the ignorance is complete with respect to what the future holds. And I think that complete ignorance is the ground on which all confident boasting about tomorrow collapses. And so the phrase "what a day may bring" uses language that suggests the active urgency of time and bringing things to pass, right? Because the day brings things. Some of those things are expected and planned for, but the day also, when we all know this as humans, brings things that were not expected, that could not have been anticipated, that arrive without warning and change everything about the landscape of life in ways no amount of planning accounted for. And so this is not pessimism, but it is simply accurate, right? Anyone who has lived long enough has experienced a day that brought something no plan had accounted for. The diagnosis that changed everything, the phone call that arrived without warning, the opportunity that appeared from nowhere, the loss that redrew the entire map of a life, the day that brought what it brought, and the plans that had been made with confident certainty about tomorrow encountered in the fundamental reality of Proverbs 27:1. We even see Ecclesiastes 9:12 developing the same observation with a vivid image. It says, "For a man does not know his time, like fish that are taken in an evil net, and like birds that are caught in a snare, so the children of man are snared at an evil time when it suddenly falls upon them." So, right, the suddenly is the key word here. The net and the snare arrive without announcement. And so the day brings what it brings, and the fish and the bird, for all their activity and momentum, did not know what the day was going to bring. Even in Luke 12:16-21, which we referenced when we went over Proverbs 11:4, I think it provides the New Testament narrative illustration of this principle in the parable of the rich fool, even. It says, "The man who builds bigger barns, who tells his soul to eat, drink, and be merry for many years, does not even know that this very night his life will be required of him. But he had plans for tomorrow," right? He had boasted about a future he was confident that he possessed. And the day brought what it brought, which was not necessarily what he had planned. Right? The parable is not primarily about wealth, but it is about the presumption of a tomorrow that we do not actually own. And I think this is also where the verse connects directly to one of the most significant themes we've traced throughout this entire series: the sovereignty of God over the future. Right? Proverbs 19:21 established that many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Proverbs 16:9 stated that the heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. And Proverbs 21:30 declared that that no wisdom, insight, or plan succeeds against the Lord. And so what we see here in Proverbs 27:1 is the subjective complement to all of those objective statements. We do not know what a day may bring precisely because the day is in the hands of the one whose purposes prevail, whose steps establish ours, and against whom no plan succeeds. And so I think the ignorance is not random or meaningless, but it is the natural experience of us being finite creatures moving through a future that belongs to an infinite God. I think for myself, bro, I'm terrible at this. I'm terrible of having this heart posture and this mindset, bro. Like, dude, dude, like, okay, I sometimes, bro, I be planning projects like way too far in advance, as if I expect to be entitled to them, to the future, entitled to living in the future. Right? It's terrible. So I definitely need to, uh, and desperately need to improve in this area. But let's get practical here, and let's get applicable here, because I want to allow you guys to maybe reflect on how you can maybe use this verse to just improve your life, right? And so the first thing is to audit the difference between our plans and our boasts. Yeah, and this is what I mean by that, right? Because I think this is just immediate, right? I think it's the most immediate application of this verse, developing honest self awareness about when our planning has crossed into boasting, right? That's kind of what I was talking about. But like, plans held with open hands, pursued with diligence while acknowledging that tomorrow belongs to God, are affirmed throughout Proverbs. Let's keep that in mind. But plans that have become confident declarations about a future we have effectively claimed as already ours are what this verse is addressing. And so, practically, I think this might mean paying attention to the language we use about the future, both in our own minds and in conversation with others. Like, do we speak about our plans with the humility of someone who knows they don't own tomorrow, or do we speak with the confidence of someone who has already written tomorrow's story and is simply waiting for it to be confirmed? And so that language actually reveals the posture of the heart, and the posture this verse is calling us toward is the one who plans diligently while holding the outcome with genuine openness to the fact that the day will bring what it brings. Second thing, practice the "if the Lord wills" posture in a way that is sincere rather than formulaic. Because again, James 4:15 gives us the corrective language. If the Lord wills, we will live and do this or that. And I think that phrase can become a Christian verbal habit that is inserted into sentences about the future without actually reflecting any genuine submission to divine sovereignty. But the point is not the formula, right? The point is the genuine acknowledgement that the future is God's territory and our plans operate within His permission rather than in spite of it. And so, practically, I think this means actually bringing our plans before God rather than simply appending His name to plans we have already made. It means holding the outcomes of our planning with genuine openness to redirection, disappointment, or the unexpected arrival of something better than we planned for. And it means cultivating the kind of relationship, I believe, with God's sovereignty over the future that allows us to receive what the day brings, whether expected or not, as something that has arrived within its knowledge and His purposes, rather than as a random disruption of our carefully constructed plans. And the third thing is to let this verse reframe our response to unexpected disruption. Oh, boy. I sounded like a southerner when I said that. I mean, nothing wrong with it, but it was just relatable, right? I mean, look, when the day brings what we did not plan for, the natural human response is either anxiety about our lost plans or the urgent work of constructing new ones as quickly as possible to replace what was disrupted. And I think both responses treat the unexpected arrival as primarily a problem to be managed. Proverbs 27:1, though, suggests a different initial posture, one that begins not with the management of disruption, but with the honest acknowledgement that the day brought what it brought and we did not know it was coming, which means the one who did not know it was coming remains in the position of sovereignty that our confident boasting was attempting to occupy. That acknowledgement is not passive resignation. It is the recalibration of where we actually stand in relation to the future, which is the recalibration that produces genuine wisdom in the face of the unexpected rather than mere management or circumstances. So let me just give a closing thought here. This verse, Proverbs 27:1, I think is perhaps the most simply stated and most universally applicable verse in the whole book. that nobody is exempt from its logic. The richest, most powerful, most carefully planning person on earth does not know what tomorrow will bring. The future is not available for possession, only for anticipation. And I think boasting about it as if it were already owned is the specific foolishness that wisdom identifies and calls us away from. So we gotta plan well, hope genuinely, and work diligently, but hold tomorrow with the open hands of someone who knows that the day will bring what it brings, that the one who holds tomorrow is wiser and more sovereign than our best plans, and that the posture of humble acknowledgement of our own ignorance about the future is not weakness, but it is the most accurate thing we can say about where we actually stand. I mean, look, let's be honest, we do not know what a day may bring, but the one who does is worthy of our